Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, Ask the Mayor with Bob Hedlund.
Well, we're back for another episode of Ask the Mayor. I'm your host, your citizen Inquisitor, the man whose silence has been requested of from the Honorable Mayor of the town, Robert L. Hedlund. How are you this afternoon,
Great.
Robert?
Lots of questions, so let's get right into them.
Lots of L, lots of love, lots of L.
And tell your cousin if he wants to ask questions to write in, not to verbalize them to you to have you transmit them.
Exactly. All right, Robert. We've become very somber. From Kitty Cathel. Sorry. Oh. A lot of these names are little. Mr. Bojangles, Kitty Cathel. All right, Robert, hello.
You're going to start cross-referencing them.
What are the... You want to see if she's enrolled as well? Hello, what are the plans?
I mean, that looks legitimate, but whatever.
Here we go. What are the plans to help alleviate the traffic? Can you be a little more vague? With all the new developments, the traffic has increased dramatically. I hadn't noticed. Last weekend, it took me 20 minutes to go 2.5 miles. Oh, that's a good day. This is a common occurrence around town. Thanks in advance from it says from Kitty Cathel, and then it's thanks in advance from Kathy. So that must be her twin sister, Kathy Cathel. So, Robert, do you have plans to help alleviate the traffic?
No.
Moving right along.
But Cynthia Stone Cream, the senator from Newton, is riding to the rescue, has filed a bill that will impose limitations on your driving around Massachusetts. So maybe that's the cure-all. The nanny state is going to step in and prevent people from driving.
Like limit the amount of miles a car can drive on a given year?
Yeah.
How would that be
in the
measured?
name of decreasing our carbon footprint. Look it up. But no, I mean, you live 14 miles south of Boston, the capital city of New England. Tremendous growth all around us. The fastest growing region of the state, southeastern Mass, Plymouth, the fastest growing community in the state. You live in a metropolis. There's people driving. Nobody walks anymore. People don't like to use transportation. Kids don't walk to school. I mean, there's more registered cars in Hingham than there are people. It's crazy around here.
Same thing in Weymouth, right?
I don't know about Weymouth. Yeah. I don't think so.
But this is designated as the fastest growing area, the southeastern little corridor, huh, in Massachusetts?
Plymouth has been, over the last 20 years, the fastest growing community in the state. I mean,
that Red Hook development my sister just moved into is Red Hook.
We've talked about population growth on the South Shore numerous times on this. You know, Hingham's added more apartments than Weymouth has in the last 20 years, but the growth is just Route 18, all those cars taking people south. Talked about it before. There used to be more chicken coops in Norwell than people. The growth around us is huge.
Wow.
And people don't want to use alternative forms. The worst thing is, I mean, you know, when school gets out in this town, it's crazy with people driving their kids. Nobody wants to walk anymore. So anyway, the answer is no. I have no plan.
The Newton Center there?
I shouldn't say we don't have a plan. I mean, the Vision Zero thing's looking at some improvements that planning's doing and things like that, but that's incremental.
But the woman from Newton Center
Next
control
question.
the amount of car.
Oh yeah, look that one up.
Wow. Albania last show, Newton this show. Whoa. Wow, restrictions
There
coming
is a
our way.
parallel there.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing you are too. All right.
Good one, Jim.
Thank you. Stop the presses. Wait a minute. Shut your mouth. All right, Donna Fiascanaro. Hopefully she's related to the great Vinny Fiascanaro.
I would guess.
What? You buy one Fiascanaro, you get the rest for free. That's what I heard, Bob. All right, Bobby, why doesn't Weymouth have at least one dispensary? There's a lot of places to put them. A lot of empty storefronts, I heard. Towns and cities around us are literally setting up right over the Weymouth town line, selling to many Weymouth residents. So I've heard. Funds would do great things for the town. Asking for a friend. Jamelli. No.
This has been answered before. So under state law, based on how Weymouth voted in the referendum, which was against the legalization of recreational marijuana.
We voted against that as a town?
It was a very close vote, but the town voted it down. So under state law, in order to open up a dispensary, the governing legislative body, in this case, our town council, would have to vote to change that. And it was brought up for a vote a few years back, and it was defeated, the roll call was 11-0 against changing it. So that's the situation we're in.
How do you see it? Do you see that would be an enhancement to our town revenue base if you got a dispensary or two? Are we limited to more than?
It's diminishing returns, and we see around the state, some places are actually closing because of the proliferation of these.
Is that true?
But then you look at, my friend Mr. Afser on the other side of the bridge is making a fortune. So it's location, in some cases. But I think an 11-0 vote, even the proponent that on the council that put it forward, after he saw that it was a 10-1 vote, he voted against his own measure to make it unanimous. So I don't see it changing anytime soon. Next question.
No, I want to ask you.
I thought we weren't doing
Are
follow-ups.
we limited? Can you offer as many licenses? Could there be more than one if the town approved it? Could there be multiple? It seems every town has one.
I forget the
I don't know
state
enough
law
about
off the top of my head now, but it might be limited by population or whatever.
I'm surprised. As a mayor, I thought you'd see that as an enhancement to like your revenue base, as I said, like the taxes and everything. If it worked, would it provide a funding sources, in your opinion?
Of course it would.
Okay,
So it's not the panacea that people talk about on social media. That's for sure.
I have to ask you.
They overplay what the financial impact is.
If you had a vote on the council, what would your vote be?
I'm comfortable with the current situation.
Okay.
I mean, I'm agnostic on it.
Okay. Excellent.
The libertarian in me is like, fine, but right now, it is what it is. 11-0 vote. I'm fine with that.
Enough said. All right, Robert from Lily Christopher. Can you stop all the solicitors who are ringing the doorbell? They ask a lot of the mayor in this town. Can you stop all the solicitors who are ringing the doorbell? It's become excessive, and they are so persistent. It's hard to get them to leave. I'd say in the springtime for sure. They're all lawn care guys coming around. Is that legal, number one? I used to be a door-to-door salesman. You used to have to go to town to get a permit from the town hall to be an
I remember when I was a little kid, I saw in the back of a comic book about buying a box of seeds and you go around selling them.
Weed seeds.
No. I think it's times have changed. Everyone is fearful.
Yeah.
I don't know why we became so fearful, so isolated. I get those window guys show up all the time. I'm polite to them. I feel bad they're out trying to make a living. Doesn't bother me, but maybe if I were an older person, I don't want to sound sexist or ageist, but I can understand different people have different views and don't like it. But even if you went back to the 60s, there were probably people that didn't like the World Book salesman, the Fuller Brush salesman, the seed salesman.
The Southwestern Book Company. I had a job in Texas. But again, do you know the statutes? Because in those towns in Texas, we sold them. I had to go to the town hall and get a permit, and I had to display it.
There's an ordinance they have to notify the police department that they're in town soliciting. I mean, live and let live. They're trying to make a living. I can't stop it. It's a First Amendment issue. I mean, you can't ban someone from going out trying to sell something and knocking on doors.
In the old
but
days,
they do have to register with the police.
And in the old days, folks in your profession, the politicians used to go door to door. Citizen Hagenin went door to door when he first announced that he was running for office.
Correct. Everyone does that.
You've done that in the past, I know. Don't you have an interesting
canvassing.
Don't you have an interesting Burgess story with our good friend Ant-Man?
We used to call it, yes, I did. We used to call it door knocking, and now the progressives like to call it canvassing.
Either way, it sounds like Lily Christopher ain't in favor of it. And usually the old timers are the ones who want to talk to you. They want to talk to you. Hi, Mayor Hedlund from Kelly McDonough. What is the best way to go about having a playground repair made? Lovell Field needs a number of touch-ups. The swing has been broken for almost a year. How do we get this replaced?
You send a question to ask the mayor. The mayor looks at it, and he gives it to Steve Riley, and especially Lovell Field, where we have a revolving account that's doing very well. And Steve's usually on top of these things. It could be a procurement issue, I don't know. But the answer is, you write to ask the mayor, the citizen advocate reads it, the mayor says, that's a good idea, I'll follow up on it. He takes this, he puts it here, and he gives it to Steve Riley.
Democracy in action, my friends. Ask the mayor. You ask, we answer. Robert from Facebook, from Mark Foley, top contributor. I have a question about the crosswalks at two schools in my neighborhood. Neither the high school or the Ralph Talbot schools have the new highly visible crossing lights. And the speed warning lights are never activated on Pleasant Street by the high school. I guess it's a friendly FYI. How do we manage that one, Robert?
Didn't follow that, but
Okay. Yeah. Well, the T and the Albert was separated.
all the schools have the new highly visible. Okay, so he's saying the new schools have the visible one, but the ones at the high school aren't working. So I don't know. I know we got a question years ago about the one at the Johnson School. Guy was irate. He wrote in twice, and I could never get a sufficient answer out of DPW why we couldn't spark that thing back up. But now the school's closed, so it's a moot point. So now we'll turn our attention to the one at the high school. I do not know why that's not working, but
I drive by it all the time. It's working all. I've never recall it not working, so I don't know.
Really?
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe school was in session. That works. I've complimented you. I think they're a great enhancement to the town.
that
I
one's
like those things.
That's an easy one that I'll be able to follow up at the conclusion of the show.
Things are easy. Things are going well here at the show, Robert. You may be begging for my editorializing as we rifle through these questions. All right, are you ready, Robert? This is a good one, but I think it's come up in the past. A very unique Weymouth situation.
Repetitive question here.
From Carol Nelson. Why don't we have self-service?
She wrote in on the last show.
Well, she's a big fan of your chubby citizen Inquisitor. From Carol Nelson, why don't we have self-service gas station? That's very unique.
Oh, yes, that has come up.
Yeah, but I forget the answer as always. What is the answer?
Town, under the old form of government, passed a bylaw, which has remained in our ordinances. I can't speak for the council the Board of Selectmen back then, but my understanding is, as we've talked about before, when self-service came into vogue, they were concerned about safety, and a lot of towns did put bylaw or ordinances in. Most of them have removed them since. I think there may have been a little undercurrent of Weymouth being a strong union town and to protect jobs. I think there was an undercurrent of that then too, from my recollection. But that's why it's in place. And this is another one where I'm sort of agnostic on. I don't have an opinion. I kind of like it the way it is. But if there was appetite to change it and the council had a strong view that we should change this, I would support the consensus.
I got to ask you two questions, Bob. The first one is, can you think of another community where that is enforced? Because I'm trying to think of another one.
We got that question before. Actually,
anybody?
Not
anybody
that long ago.
Town? Yeah.
But I know, New Jersey Turnpike, and there is another community in Mass somewhere. There's a smattering of them around.
And you brought up, and I know it's your family business. Around when did those become self-servicey? Like in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s? It seems like
No, God. I mean, I pumped it.
Late 90s. Wow, you're kidding me.
No, a little earlier than that.
Yeah. I thought it was 70s though, but it's after 70s.
It wasn't the 70s. I worked in 3 different gas stations from 77 into 81. And no, we didn't have that technology.
I worked at G-Lo's in Hingham pumping gas. All right,
worked at G-Lo's?
I did work at I used to walk to G-Lo's, walk home down the street from G-Lo's.
You worked at G-Lo's?
I did work at G-Lo's. Remember I pumped your gas? You didn't tip me.
It wasn't a busy place.
There's a packy behind. There's a packy, so they used to let us buy beer when we were 17.
Was it a mobile station then? What was it?
I think it was a mobile station. Yeah.
I worked at the least busiest station in Hingham, Lincoln Street Mobile, and finally went out of business. And I got a job at the BP Sousa where Settles Glass was downtown Hingham. So I went from the slowest station in town to the busiest. I don't know what hit me.
And Hingham, more registered cars than people. That's a fun fact. All right, Robert, from Danny C.
No, more registered cars than licensed drivers.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
If I said people on the last show, I made a mistake.
No.
I mean, there's more registered cars in Hingham than there are people.
No, and I might have misheard. You may have picked up on the fact I'm not the brightest bulb on the old Christmas tree, but we want to remind everybody to keep the questions coming to AskMayorBob@gmail.com. AskMayorBob@gmail.com. I will do my best to ask the mayor. And here's another one for you, Robert. It's a little trip down memory lane from Danny C. I would love to see Mayor Bob Hedlund do a Where Are They Now with the Wheelie Kids. Is that possibly? What are the Wheelie Kids?
The kids that rode around popping wheelies on their bikes, disrupting traffic.
Were you a wheelie kid?
No. We had some controversy early in my tenure here. Actually had a meeting here with the wheelie kids.
Oh, there was a group, like the pickleball gang?
Yeah. I think you still see kids riding around doing wheelies. It's a thing right now, but some of the wheelie kids have progressed from bicycles to scooters, illegal dirt bikes, and other forms of motorized, unregistered, unlicensed vehicles and still pop wheelies, but on motorized units.
Is that what a wheelie
And
kid
one of the
is?
wheelie kids is in jail, so I can give you the update on that one. But
So he
the
won't
rest
be
of the
making it a
gang,
union
the rest of the
show.
gang, I don't know. I don't know where they are now.
But a wheelie just means like popping a wheelie on your back tire? That was a problem in this town for a while?
We did it in traffic.
Oh, wow, that's what the problem. All right, Robert, if you can believe it, your wish is about to come true. We're in the home stretch. Robert, Kathy Rocca Curran, I would like to ask what we can do about bombarding calls from accidental insurance. Getting over 10 calls a day, bad when waiting from calls from the doctor's office. So accidental insurance, I'm not familiar with, and they're calling Kathy Rocca Curran 10 times a day. What do you think?
I'm starting to get some of these scam calls. Yeah, the IRS wants to talk to you, all this baloney.
I've heard. I turned you
We
in.
live in a world of scams now, and email scams, and it's kind of above the town's kind of responsibility.
yeah.
And I think there's isn't there like a do not call registry or something they passed? I would suggest she consult, to see what state laws are out there now. I'm not up to speed on it, but I think you guys know, there's a way to block.
Coming from India is the problem.
Yeah.
Or some other countries. So
Yeah.
It's like we can have a do not call registry, but they don't follow our laws.
You use the great Seinfeld line. Hey, I'm a little busy right now. What's your number? I'll call you back when you have a chance. Accidental insurance, I am not familiar with. All right.
When I get those calls and it's a strange number, I know they're on like a delay. So when you answer, and I know, so I hang up when there's a delay because I know it's one of those calls. That might be a little tip, Kathy, that you can employ. I don't know.
You also hang up on me when there's no. Hey, Robert, hang when there's no delay. So you have a couple techniques in play. All right, Robert, from Ronald Adams.
Ooh, he's become the Hartnett, the new Hartnett.
The new Ronald. Ronald's. You're going to be begging for my jib jab in a couple minutes. Jeff just gave us
Why
the
don't you
10-minute
put that
mark.
on the bottom then?
Well, there's only 3 left, so here we go from Ronald Adams, our new bestest buddy, our new big toe. Robert, why can't the town work with the state now? N-O-W in caps. Why can't the state work with the state now to improve traffic safety? More crosswalks with audible systems and some red-lighted speed cameras on Bridge Street. Ooh, Bridge Street comes up a lot. Instead of waiting for the McCabe study to be completed. I'm not familiar with McCabe. I'm sure you're going to inform us a little bit more. And then why do
McCabe?
The McCabe study.
I'm Kathy McCabe. I'm the principal of McCabe Enterprises.
MCCABE, the McCabe study to be completed.
Yeah, right.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Why do homeowners...
Part of the consulting team.
Okay, why do homeowners or town, whoever is responsible, not clear overgrowth along North, just past C Street? Looks like there's a couple here. And it would certainly that intersection, I'm reading this directly, it would certainly that intersection of sidewalk a lot easier to maneuver and safer for pedestrians. I don't know if that makes sense. Right, Robert, you picking up what I'm putting down? Because I don't know if I understand these questions. Why can't the town work?
What is all this? Oh,
Yeah.
why can't we do it now? Well, I mean, it's government. Things move. The wheels of progress move slow.
But
in government.
is this a town
And
road?
we-
Maybe it's a state road?
No, it's a state road.
Okay, it's a state road, okay.
So the state promised things on 3A for decades. When we were doing the bridge, for instance, they were supposed to sync up some improvements on Bridge Street at that time, safety improvements. I remember the meetings. This is going back 10, 15 plus 20 years. And then they shelved that. They went ahead with the bridge. This is like a 20-year delay to get to this point with this study. So we got the grant, which is the grant for the zero vision study in the 3A study, which is really kind of dragging the state along. So we're doing this work to try to advance the state's involvement in things they've been talking about for 20 years. So, the quick answer on answering the capital NOW is we're dealing with a state bureaucracy. It's very difficult to move things along. And we need this analysis to be done to kind of like put it in front of the state and say, this is what we need to do. I mean, we're kind of like doing the work for them in a sense, right, to bring them along. So that's the first part of that. I can't talk about homeowners clearing growth in front of their houses.
It's up to them, right?
yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a code enforcement officer. That's something we've talked about. We've never got around to doing it. Even with a code enforcement officer, I don't know how you can go tell someone to cut their shrubs.
That guy that writes all
You
the
have an
tickets for
answer
the
to
police
that?
department. Yeah, bring that guy that writes all the tickets for the
But
police
Ron
department.
is emerging as a very, very forceful advocate for North Weymouth, and we appreciate his involvement at these meetings.
Bobby, when you do have to call the state, is it ever just one phone call, or is it always just?
No, it depends on what
okay,
agent. Sometimes
okay,
it is one phone call.
yeah.
Other examples, this MBTA cleanup of the Durante property, which we've been talking about since I came in here, was supposed to be done 20 years ago.
Son of a gun, huh?
And we've done everything to try to I have to say, it was for years the town kicked the problem down the road. It went back to Greenbush mitigation days. And we've done everything to light a fire under the MBTA, and it's a joke. It's a joke. I mean, it's something that should have been done 18, 15, whatever Greenbush has been now, 15 years plus.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
And every time we make some progress, there's a department head level person that's been replaced, and they're reinventing the wheel. It's a joke. And that goes back to the previous question about, dealing with the bureaucracy at the state level.
Yeah, sure.
So, but in other instances, it's been real good. I can pick the phone up, MWRA, I got a relationship with Fred Lasky. I can make something happen when there's an MWRA problem. I have his personal cell phone number. There's been some issues with MassDOT that we're pretty good getting a response. Different agencies, different times, it varies.
All right, well, Robert, you're going to be proud of me and proud of the production staff.
I am proud of you.
2 questions left.
Compared to the last show, I'm very proud of you.
Wait a minute, though. That could change. We still have a few minutes left in the show. Robert, from Joyce. I live on Bradley Road in North Weymouth, and cars fly up our road day and night. A sign was put out at the park, open dusk to dawn. It does no good unless it's enforced by police. Maybe they could ask a neighbor for permission to sit in their driveway to help enforce the nighttime restrictions. I would imagine that's on its way up to Great Hill, Robert, Bradley Road, is it not?
I think you're familiar with that.
Mary's going thumbs up. She knows. It's connected to Regatta Road, apparently. So, yes, Robert, perhaps I may be the new hire for the town. Shrub, I'm going to write shrub tickets. I'm going to bust anybody going up to the park after dusk. Really, you're not supposed to be at that park after dusk?
So this came up this came up at the State of North Weymouth meeting. People are focused on it up there. We've tried a few things. It got really bad during COVID. I've witnessed it, myself. The police department put together an idea for gates that would be controlled at dispatch. They go down at 10. Someone got trapped up there. They could hit a buzzer. Dispatch could press a button, let them out. That might have tamped down on. We couldn't get consensus with the neighbors. Now the police department is questioning the technology, so that's been shelved. The latest initiative from the police department, I actually have a meeting with the chief today on another matter, so I'll remind him of this. But what he said at the North Weymouth Civic State of, I call it the town, but North Weymouth calls it the State of North Weymouth. They're working on putting cameras up there and some low-level lighting at night, and hopefully that'll tamp down on some of the evening activity because it's supposed to be closed, at a certain hour. But I thought the gates were a good idea. Different sections of the Great Hill neighborhood thought it was good. Other sections didn't. Couldn't get consensus. One guy wanted to chop my head off when I suggested gates.
I'm pro.
I mean, whenever we have a neighbor, it's an interesting dynamic. Whenever we have an issue in a neighborhood, it's amazing sometimes how the neighborhood is divided, whether it's replacing a seawall, whether it's don't want a sidewalk in front of their house. They do want a sidewalk. I mean, that's an amazing one. I can give you examples where neighbors were arguing over sidewalks. Don't want a sidewalk, do want a sidewalk. I mean, it's great when they don't want a sidewalk. We save money, and we can put that money somewhere else in a neighborhood that wants a sidewalk. But oftentimes, it's hard to get consensus on a little local mini neighborhood issue.
You can please.
And Gates was an example of that. So anyway, the bottom line is the police are, and I push them to police. For a while, we actually had the sector guy, the North Weymouth sector guy, park up there at night and answer calls from there and have that be his little hangout. That was towards the end of COVID. So the bottom line is, in answer to her question, Joyce, is you're going to see some lighting improvements up there, and the police want to put cameras up there.
Well, I'll look forward to that for sure. You talking about that
Cameras should be a big help.
that State of North Weymouth meeting, the one that you invited me to sing a song at? Is that what he did? He did. There is a place for Jim Melody in the town purview. Robert, I hold in my hands like the Karnak.
Last show he's complaining that he doesn't.
I hold in my hands the last question, Robert. I like the great Karnak. Are you ready? Would you like to try to guess what this one is about?
No.
All right.
No idea.
Dear Mayor Hedlund, what the? You stink. All right, dear Mayor Hedlund. No, from Jackie McKean. It's a barrel issue. Dear Mayor Hedlund, I live on Franklin Street, which is a one-way narrow street. Are you familiar with Franklin Street?
I believe that's just outside Lincoln Square.
Mary's nodding.
Right? Am I right?
Where the hell is Lincoln Square would be the next question I want to know.
Boy.
Jackson?
Near the new library.
Okay.
Let me give you a hint.
That's called
My
Lincoln
grandfather's,
Square.
the name of my
Sonny.
grandfather's business
Sonny.
at one time was Lincoln Square Deli.
That's called Lincoln Square, where the firehouse was, and right. That's Lincoln Square. Is there a sign there or anything? All right, who knows? All right.
No, but
I did not
actually
know that.
we were, and it's been delayed, but we were going to make some improvements on the corner. We got an easement from Union Towers, and that
You won't.
bland little corner there that's all concrete. We were actually going to put a bust of Lincoln up with some signage.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Washington Square, Jackson Square, Lincoln Square.
All right, Robert. So, I live on Franklin Street, which is a one-way narrow street.
That's what I don't understand. You grew up in Weymouth.
I've never heard anybody refer
And
to
all
that
these
area.
landmarks,
Lincoln.
you-
Well, Jackson Square, the Jackson family, the great Jackson family, of course, that grew up on Alta Road, right outside of Jackson Square, has got deep roots in the town of Weymouth.
You know who they named Jackson Square after, right?
Well, I presume it's after Andrew
No,
Jackson.
they named it after Tony Jack's son.
I thought it was after Michael Jackson.
Friend of yours, right?
I love Tony Jackson. I golfed with Billy Jackson last night. The Jacksons are awesome. All right, Robert, there's a Billy Jackson and a Billy Jackson, which was always confusing for people in my demographic. All right, Robert, dear Mayor Hedlund, I live on Franklin Street, which is a one-way narrow street. Several multi- and single-family homes that front Broad Street are placing their trash barrels on Franklin Street. This can be up to 18 barrels, apparently she's counting. This can be up to 18 barrels plus yard waste and special pickups on Franklin Street.
People on Broad Street are putting their barrels on Franklin.
Apparently so. Why aren't they putting their barrels on the front of their property? Mr. Mayor, why aren't they putting their barrels on the front? Because of this, the trash truck has got to go the wrong way down the road to pick up the trash. With restrictions of no overnight parking at the street, there are multiple cars parked on the street. That makes it an already tight street dangerous for children riding bikes. Maybe the Wheelie Gang. This makes an already tight street dangerous for children riding bikes and difficult to navigate. I will appreciate any help with this matter.
Geez,
Do you
I
understand the
wouldn't
question?
understand why, if you lived on one street, you'd want to lug your barrels around the corner to another street. Why?
I agree.
Does that explain? What? So what?
Yeah.
You can leave
I don't,
them on
I don't
your-
want to lug
you
my
can-
barrels
you-
any
you
further than I
can-
have to.
Yeah, but you can leave it set back. The arm
Yeah, exactly.
on the packer
Goes out.
is very long.
Yeah, no doubt.
It has a pretty good reach. I have no idea. I mean, Jim, I think you and I, after the show, will drive over there and canvass the folks on Broad Street and then get the answer to this.
Dumping barrels onto the street where we can.
I don't know. I mean, with the restrictions of no overnight parking at the park, there are multiple cars parked on the street. We had can I just say, my chief of staff lived for a while on that section where she's talking about, and his backyard was on one street and front yard was on Broad Street,
No
right?
way.
And he was in a conflict with a neighbor.
Torn between two lovers, feeling like a fool. Bless you.
He was in a conflict with a neighbor across the street over the parking issue, and that neighbor sent me a threatening email.
You got a lot of those. Why don't I get to read some of those?
No, it was so bad. And then he threatened Ted, and the guy worked for a vendor of the town.
Former vendor in
And
the
the
town.
police had to follow up on a physical threat that was made to the chief of staff by this guy in writing.
Over parking?
Yes, and it involved this neighborhood, it involved that parking lot that she's talking about. And I think because of that conflict is what led to them enforcing the no parking in the parking lot.
Oh, boy.
But it was crazy. I would say that in my 9 years, the email I got from one of the neighbors over there, and I get a lot of crazy stuff, you might imagine. It's my favorite email of all time. And I think when we do like some capstone show, I think I should read it just to give you an example of some of the stuff that comes in.
Only if you promise to read the one from the city councilor who's tired of you effing with his family. I'd like to see that one being published.
How much time we got left?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about that city councilor. Yeah.
I got to read that email someday because it's awesome.
All right, well, Robert, we want to
And what's amazing, it's a guy that barely speaks English that's a new arrival to the country. He's an immigrant, right? And he works, he works hard. But to come to this country as a new arrival and say the things that he put in writing, threatening the chief of staff physical harm and then threatening me to a certain degree. Just
Who hasn't, though? Who hasn't threatened you?
How do you do that?
He's from Albania. He's from Albania. We know that much.
No, this one's from Brazil. But if I went to Brazil, I kind of want to keep a low profile and not threaten people.
Obrigado. We want to remind everybody one more time to please keep the questions coming into askmayorbob@gmail.com. Askmayorbob@gmail.com. We do have to say goodbye, good night, and God bless, as they would say on Broadway these days with George Clooney's new play that's opened up recently. But Robert, thank you as always for your great questions and your lovely demeanor and your personal compassion to me personally.
And I'm going with thoughts of Barbara Eden in my mind today for some reason. So I'm going to go with I Dream of Jeannie.
I'm trying to think of the theme song.
Major Nelson. Genie. We had Carol Nelson, so let's go with...
Thank you, Mary. I agree with you, my man.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.